Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. We're reading from Hari Bhakti Vilas, chapter 5, or the fifth Vilas. And the fifth Vilas is the start of the puja of the deity of Krishna, and which we're performing with the Gopal mantra, the 18-syllable Gopal mantra according to Krama Deepika. So up until now, we have done all the different nyasas and all the different purification ceremonies, Bhuta Shuddhi, and we've got up to the point of doing mental puja. Internally, we worship Krishna within the heart. And now we are going to do external worship. We're going to offer the external items of worship, or upacharas, or services to the deity. So we have to talk about what those services are, and we have to enumerate them and delineate them. We have to say what they are exactly, and we have to put them in a particular order. So once again, Hari Bhakti Vilas is not a step-by-step manual for doing worship, but it gives us the different scriptural proofs or pramanas from different scriptures that tell us how to do that worship. Then we must construct a step-by-step way of performing worship. And again, last time we also mentioned that this particular example in Hari Bhakti Vilas that's being given is the example of worshiping Krishna alone. Normally, we won't worship Krishna alone. We'll worship Krishna with Radha. We may worship Krishna with Radha Krishna, with other gopis, with other people, with his parents, or with the cowherd boys. There may be different personalities around. So then these are called parivara devatas, or the parivara, or parivara means like the family, or attendants, different attendants. So, and once again, there may be other types of other deities that we worship, like Lord Chaitanya, or the Panchatattva, or Gaurnitai, or Gorgadadhar. There or Narasimha, or any other deity. So what we're doing here is only an example by worshiping Krishna. Okay, so let's have a look at the text again, see where we left off. And first, we'll take the original texts from Hari Bhakti Vilas, and then we'll go and we'll look and see exactly how those texts can be used. So here we are. This is where the external worship section starts. So it says Bahir Pujaha, which actually means Bahir. Bahir means outside. Antar means inside. We just did Antar Puja, and Bahir means outside. And so this is the fifth Vilas, text 249 and 250. So it says here, and we don't know exactly where these slokas are from, but anyhow, it says, "O Supreme Lord, O Master, please give me permission to engage in your external worship. After praying like this, one should begin worshiping the Lord. There are many forms of the Lord, such as the Shalagram Shila and the deity, so that the devotee can worship the Lord externally." So everybody has a super soul. Everybody has a soul. Everybody has a soul. Every sentient being has a soul, or an Atman, Jivatman. And inside, and that soul is conceived of as being within the heart of the living being. And also along with that, the soul in the heart, there is what we call the super soul, or Paramatman. There's a Jivatman and Paramatman. And the Paramatman is there also within the heart. In the Upanishads, they're described as two birds in a tree. So the body is like a tree, and imagine a tree with a lot of green leaves, and you have two green birds sitting in the tree. It's very difficult for us to see those birds. We can't see the super soul, we can't see the soul, because first of all, because the soul is so small, and because the super soul is so both of them are spiritual, so we can't see them with our ordinary senses like that. Just like we can't see when there are two green birds in a big bushy green tree. We don't see them, but we perceive them we perceive the soul is there in the body, because we see the person acting, the person is conscious, and he does different things. So there's obviously a soul there motivating or getting the body to act in certain ways. Similarly, the super soul is also there, always watching the soul and guiding us. So the process of Antar Puja, which we just did, or worship, internal worship, is the process of conceiving through meditation a particular form of the deity that we're worshiping externally in the heart. So we're worshipping Krishna externally. We have a deity of Krishna, or we have a shalagrama, which means a stone, a small stone from Gandaki River in Nepal, right? Which is considered, which has the chakras like just like the Sudarshana chakra of Lord Vishnu, which are considered to be Swayam Vyakta, or self-manifesting, or self-coming about deities, right? Then we can worship externally those forms, the form of the deity or the form of the shalagram. But when we do the meditation on the Lord, which we've done in the previous classes, we've talked about how to chant the different mantras and how to say the different prayers and meditate upon the different aspects of Krishna within Vrindavan in the Yoga Pith, and we've discussed all of that. So when we do that, right, we conceive of a particular, the particular form of the Lord we're worshipping outside, we perceive of him in that form in our heart. And then the Antar Puja is the offering of, mentally offering of those different external services, like a lamp and incense and food and these things, mentally to the Lord within the heart. Now what we're going to do is, after we've done that, it's like a practice session. It's actually worship, and it's more important than the external worship, but now we're going to do it externally, because we do have an external deity, and we have to worship the external deity too if we have an external deity. If we don't have an external deity, there are some people who don't have an external deity, and they can simply do the internal worship. So, okay, so going back to these couple of, we have here, in the beginning of this verse, it seems like a prayer. It just seems like a prayer, which we would say out loud. Anugyam Dehi Bhagavan. Anugyam Dehi Bhagavan. It means, Dehi means give me. Bhagavan means, of course, O Lord, O Supreme Lord, right? Anugyam. Anugyam means your permission. Means your permission. So give me permission, right? Give me permission to worship you. Bahir Yage Mama Prabhu. My Lord, Mama Prabhu, right? Right? Prabhu means Lord, Mama means mine. So Mama Prabhu, Bahir Yagi. Yagi means the worship, it means sacrifice. Sri Krishna, iti. See, so there it says here, iti. When you see the word iti here in any sort of Sanskrit sentence, it means that there was some direct statements being made, some direct speech being made. In English and other languages, we use inverted commas when we write to show that there's something was said, something was directly said, right? Otherwise, we have to change the form of grammar that we have. For instance, if I say, he said that he had come. He said that he had come. That's indirect speech. But if we have direct speech, I'll say, he said, quote unquote, I have come. Right? He said, I have come. So a person may come in the room and he said, I have come. But if we want to write that down, we either say, he said, quote unquote, I have come, or we change the way that we write it and we make it indirect speech and we say, he said that he had come, or he had come, without any quotes. So here, when we see iti, it means that the thing coming before it is directly stated. It's directly said out loud. So Anugyam Dehi Bhagavan, Barhi Yage Mama Prabhu is the prayer, like that. So it doesn't necessarily say that here, right? But it says you should pray like this. So it says after praying like this. So if you're praying, so either you use this prayer or another prayer, but you're asking permission from the Lord. Previously, we also worshipped the Guru Parampara, and there were some other deities that we took permission from too, like Ganesh and Chetrapal Shiva and Durga and Parivara Devatas, who are in the different prakaras surrounding the temple as we come into the temple, right? And now we're specifically asking permission from the Lord to worship him. So not only do we have to ask permission from from our gurus, from our lineage, our spiritual lineage, but we also have Guru Parampara, but we also have to ask from these different personalities, and also who are associated with the Lord, and also from the Lord himself. So here we are after worshiping the Lord within the heart, we are now asking again for permission to worship the Lord in an external form. Right. So let's continue on. So 251, the forms of the Supreme Lord one can worship. Okay, so now what's going to happen is we're going to talk about different forms of the Lord. So before we do that, right, let us have a look at another document which talks about the different services which we're going to offer in external worship. Now, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, there are two methods put forward of, we're familiar with one method already of how to say a mantra when we offer a service. So there are three things involved here, two or sometimes three, right? So the service is the most important thing. We're offering a service to the Lord. So if we're bathing the Lord, we're pouring substances over the form of the deity. But when we bathe the Lord, there's also mantras to be chanted to initiate the bathing and while doing the bathing, right? So there's also prayers to be said. Again, optionally, there's also mudras that can be shown, hand gestures that are shown in order to initiate a particular part of a ceremony or a part of a service. So I'll give you an example of how this we've seen this in everyday life. So we were discussing about how these services in the temple, the service to the Lord is considered to be Rajyopachara, or like kingly service. It's like if there was a king, we treat the deity like he's a king in a palace, and we're going to offer all the services that we would offer to the king, to him. In the house, however, we don't see the deity as a king in the house, but we see him as a guest, as an honored guest. So somebody that comes to our house, and we honor them by giving them a seat, by offering them a drink, by feeding them, by allowing them to take their bath, etc., by putting them to sleep. Okay, so these are there are different services that we offer to the Lord. Now, so imagine that you have a personal servant like a butler, and the butler is going to call you and your friends. Let's say you have a big dinner party and you've invited all your friends, and the butler is going to come in, and the butler is going to say, come to take dinner, have dinner, right? So what they might do in a very elaborate and formal manner is they might ring a bell or make a sound with a gong or something like that, and then the butler may walk in, and then he may gesture with his hands. He make a gesture with his hands and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, dinner is served," and gesture with his hands like that. So what we're doing is we're addressing those people, ladies and gentlemen. This is like the Mula Mantra that we use with the deity. Right? The Mula Mantra addresses the name of the deity, this particular deity. In this case, it is the Gopal Mantra, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Then there's another part to what the butler says to come to dinner. He says, dinner is served. He'll say dinner is served. That means dinner is ready. So like then that is the part of the offering the service which initiates the service. So with the mudra and with that mantra, we initiate the service. So with the mudra and then the Mula Mantra, and then the particular prayer for that service would be idam naivedyam. This is the food. This is the offering. This is the food offering. This is the food offering. We say idam naivedyam. Another way to say that is naivedyam nivedayami or samarpayami. Samarpayami means I offer you this food. So there are two ways. The word naivedyam means the offering of food. We can say idam naivedyam, this is the food, and show the mudra for offering food, right? Or we can also say naivedyam samarpayami, I offer you this food. There's two ways. So we can say naivedyam samarpayami, I offer this food, or we can say idam naivedyam, this is food, like that. So there are two different ways of doing it. When we discussed before, when we were talking last time about the Pita Puja, there were or different pujas. When we're doing the internal worship, we were worshiping. Last time we talked about worshiping the the flute in Krishna's hands, the Srivatsa on the right side of his chest, the Kaustuba on the left side of his chest, the Vanamala, the flower garland around his neck. So, ete ganda pushpe, Vakshashi Venu Mukha Vena Venamaha is what we said for worshipping the flute. Ete ganda pushpe means ete, these, ganda, fragrant, but it means with sandalwood paste, right? Ganda means sandalwood paste. So pushpe means two flowers, right? Right? And so with these two flowers, I worship the flute, right? Ete ganda pushpe, Mukha Vena Venamaha. Mukha Venave means in the mouth, the flute. Venu means the flute. Venave means the unto the flute. Unto the flute. And Namaha means is always added, or not, either Namaha, or sometimes there's some other. Normally, if it's a mantra for the flute or some other thing like that, normally, if we don't know a mula mantra, a base or root mantra for a particular deity, then what we do is we just say Om, the name of the deity in the dative case, which is the case to offer, the offering case. It means two or four, right? Krishnaya means two or four Krishna. So Om Krishnaya Namaha, right? So just like that. So if we have a deity that we don't know, so if we want to worship, for instance, a deity we don't know, like Hiranyagarbha, there's a deity called Hiranyagarbha, then we would simply say Om Hiranyagarbhaya Namaha, right? So in the case of Venu, a flute, it's Venave, like Vishnu becomes Vishnave, Venave Namaha. So ete ganda pushpe, Om Mukha Venave Namaha, like that is how we worship the flute. All right. So now there will be another way of doing that. We could simply say Om Mukha Venave Namaha, right? Pushpe Samarpayami. Pushpe Samarpayami means I offer you two flowers, right? We said ete ganda pushpe. We can say ganda pushpe Samarpayami, right? I offer you two flowers. That's another way of doing it. So there are these two ways. We see that mostly the Gaudiya Vaishnavas in their padatis, they stick to the first way. The first way is just presenting the service by saying this is this or that is this, like that. The problem with that method is it takes longer to do it, to chant those mantras than it takes to chant the name of the service and Samarpayami. It's also it requires a little bit of a knowledge of Sanskrit also. For instance, if we say ete, it means two, these two. If we say etani, it means these two, three, more than two. If we say etat, it means one. So if I want to offer one flower, it's a different mantra than if I want to offer two flowers, or if I want to offer more than two flowers, singular, dual, or plural. And so pushpam is one flower, pushpe is two flowers, pushpani is three flowers or more. Excuse me. So the problem with that is that we have to know a little bit more Sanskrit grammar if we want to do it exactly correctly. The other system, which is also given there in Hari Bhakti Vilas, the other system involves simply saying what you're going to offer and then adding the word Samarpayami. And the word Samarpayami doesn't change because it is I offer you. I offer you. Samarpayami means the word you is understood. Samarpayami means I offer. So if I say Naivedyam Samarpayami, then it means I offer you the food, like that. If I say Pushpe, still, if we're going to offer one, two, or three flowers, we still might change the word flower to be singular, dual, or plural. But still, it is easier and quicker to do it the other way. So you'll see mostly we see in many other in the Bengali padatis we tend and some of the North Indian padatis, Central North Indian padatis or prayogas or systems, we tend to see this first system, and then normally in South India and also in Western India we see them use this other system of adding Samarpayami instead. So let's have a look at some of the upacharas. So I made a file here, which I sent out many years ago, but let's have a look and see what we've said here. So the standard offering of different upacharas or different services is the standard 16 services. You'll often hear this called sodasha upachara. Sodasha means, dasha means 10, sodasha means 16. So 16 articles of worship. Okay, so according to Hari Bhakti Vilas, and we have to go all the way to the 8th Vilas. We're only in the 5th Vilas right now. But if we look at the 18th Vilas, it also mentions this other system of using samarpayami, I offer, in the 8th Vilas, and specifically in the 410th verse of the 8th Vilas. So we have to, as I said, Hari Bhakti Vilas is not step-by-step guide. So we look further on in Hari Bhakti Vilas and we see that there are these two alternatives. So the word samarpayami, I offer, is used as a mantra for offering a specific service to the deity. Although some padatis use other words to indicate services offered to the deity, this word added to any service presents a simple way of offering different services. The formula is to say the root or the mula mantra or root mantra of the deity, followed by the name of the service. In the objective accusative case, the name of the service is in the accusative case. The accusative case is the case when you put, it's the declined case, that the declension that you put it in when it's the object of a sentence. So it's the object of an action. The action is offering. I am offering what? What am I offering? The object of my offering is the food, right? The person I am offering it to or for is Lord Krishna, right? So followed by the word samarpayami. Alternatively below, alt.below means an alternative mantra meaning or giving the dual or plural forms, right? So sometimes I give here some different mantras which are given instead of samarpayami, right? And also sometimes I'm giving here singular and plural alternatives. So anybody who wants this, just let me know. I wrote down as many as I could think of, because it's not that puja is offered with these mantras they're normally the same for most people, but there are some slight differences, and there are ways that they can be more elaborate and more simple. What I suggested is to everybody to learn a very simple form first of offering different services, the simple mantras, and then if you want to become more fancy later on, you can learn some more fancy ways to say it. Okay, so examples are given in an approximate order of how you would offer these different services to the deity. Now, saying the approximate order is sometimes the order is changed, and also there may be different situations where we offer different services to the deity. And for instance, in the Sri Vaishnava system of worship, right, there are what we call sadasanas. There are 6, asana means a seat. There are 6 seats for the deity. The deity sits in different, it sits to accept different forms of worship in 6 places. So those six asanas are mantrasana, shnanasana, alankarasana, bhojasana, punamantrasana, and paryankasana. Okay, these are the 6. So what do they mean is, they mean, the first one, mantrasana, means when you welcome somebody, right? You welcome them with with nice words and sweet words and words of praise. And hello, how are you, when a guest comes to the house. The second one is called so mantrasana, then shnanasana. Shnanasana means bathing the deity. So that'll be a different section, right? Then alankarasana. After bathing, you have to dress the deity and put a sacred thread and put ornaments and crowns and different things. That is called alankarasana. So then after alankarasana, then bhojasana. You have to offer a meal, you have to offer some food to the deity. So then after the bhojasana, you'll get what we call punamantrasana. Punamantrasana means, again, there'll be some offering of praise. right? There may be chanting of different names of the deity, which is called namarchana, or there might also be some different stotras and different hymns of praise to be chanted in front of the deity. That is called Prana Mantrasana. And finally, the last one is called Paryankasana, or it's also called Shayanasana. Shayana means to lie down and sleep. Paryanka means also to lie down like this. So that means putting the deity to sleep, putting the deity to rest, or sending that deity, doing valediction and sending that deity back to whatever place that deity came from, that you invoked that deity from. Whether it's be Sri Vaikuntham, the solar orb, the heavenly planets, or your heart, or wherever you conceive the deity as coming from when you worship it externally. Okay, so this is the normal sequence. Now, within those asanas, those different sections, we offer different services again and again. So in each one of those, achamana will be offered, water for washing the mouth. Padya, water for washing the feet. Arghya, water for washing the hands, will be offered in each one of these sections, right? So when I say here that this is an approximate order, right, this order of offering things is not taking into account that there might be different sections, right? This is just a straight through order of offering of certain of these so-called 16 articles of worship, 16 services to the deity. So let's see what they are. Okay, so the first thing would be Dhyanam Samarpayami, right? I offer a meditation, and the words in brackets here, on you, right, or of you, right? That will be in brackets because there's no word in the Sanskrit directly for that, but we don't need a word in Sanskrit to say to you or on you, right? So we just say Dhyanam Samarpayami. I offer a meditation, right? I'm meditating. First of all, I meditate on the Lord, that he's coming here, and then I invoke him, right? So now that can be stated as Dhyanam Samarpayami, or it can simply be Dhyayami. Dhyayami. It means the same thing. Dhyayami means Dhyanam Samarpayami. It means the same thing. So what I would suggest first is everybody learn the different things, the different services, the names of the services. Again, in the accusative case, Dhyanam, Avahanam, Stapanam, etc. And then just add Samarpayami, Samarpayami, Samarpayami to it. I offer this to you, I offer that to you, I offer the other thing to you. Right. Then later on, if you want to use the alternates, the more fancy alternates, Dhyayami, Avahiyami, Stapayami, then you can do that. So after meditation, then the next thing is to invoke the Lord to come and be present in that particular form, external form. Now, in some cases we do this, in some cases we don't do this. In the permanently installed deity, which is stuck and cemented in the temple or to the ground, that the Avahanam is not specifically done with certain other mantras like Prana mantra or whatever. It's not done every day. But in the movable deities, it's done, except for the movable deity, which is the Shalagrama. The Shalagrama can be moved. It's a small stone, the deity of the Lord, but it is not invoked every day. The specific Prana and Avahanam is not done every day. So anyway, that's just a little bit about Avahanam. Avahanam Samarpayami, you say, I invoke you. So, and the alternative is Avahiyami. Stapanam Samarpayami means I establish you. Now, there can be a lot of other things if we're invoking the Lord. There can be a lot of other things we can establish, and then we can do a prana pratishtha ceremony if it's a movable deity, and we can enliven the senses of that deity like that. That's a whole other thing. We're not going to get into that here. We're going to assume that we have a permanently installed deity or shalagrama, and we don't have to do that system. And so we're just going to move on. Stapanam Samarpayami. So I invoke you. Avahanam Samarpayami. Stapanam Samarpayami. Right. So there's also some very, very, sometimes when you have to do many, many pujas, you will just very quickly, you will offer some worship by saying, Dhyayami, Avahiyami, Stapayami, Pujami. That's it. That's all you need to do. So you're going to say, I meditate upon you, I invoke you, I establish you, and I worship you. And that's it. That's it for the whole worship of that particular. This is in sometimes when you have some very, very elaborate puja and you have many different deities that you have to worship, and you just do it very quickly and just offer some substitute item for all the different services and meditate upon all the services being offered. So you just say, Jayami, Vahiyami, Stapayami, Pujayami. Finished. Okay. So I didn't write that in here because Pujayami is going to include all. Pujayami means I offer worship to you. Pujam Samarpayami means I offer this whole worship to you. That's going to be broken down here into these different services, if that makes sense. Okay. So now we have Amukha. We have a word called Amukha, right? Amukha means such and such in Sanskrit. So many times we see in the prayogas when they're written, when we don't know the name of something, right, we say Amukha. So what I have done here is I've used the word Amukha. So we shouldn't, when we're doing puja, we're not going to use the word Amukha. But when we see in a prayoga or in a procedure that it says Amukha, it means that we should replace that with the actual thing that's being offered. So here we have a statement here, Amukha Akshatan Samarpayami, right? So leaving out, we have to insert what we want to offer to the deity, and then we say Akshatan Samarpayami. Now Akshata is unbroken. The word Akshata means imperishable. Actually, it means imperishable. Akshata, undestroyed. Sha means to destroy, like Kshatriya, like Shrom in Narasimha, Bija mantra, to destroy. So that which cannot be destroyed is Akshata. So Akshata, but in this sense, it means unbroken rice grains. So you have these whole grains of rice, and sometimes they're dusted slightly with turmeric. So they turmeric or kumkum, and they look reddish or yellowish, right? To add purity to them, right? Pure raw rice is pure, and also this kumkum and turmeric is also pure. Okay, so this akshata is a pure item which we can offer as a substitute for any other thing that we don't have. So if we don't have flowers, we can just offer some akshata, some grains of rice with turmeric, like that. So, for instance, here, if we're making a substitution, right, for let's say for flowers, so we'll simply say pushpani, which means flowers, right? And we'll say akshatan samarpayami. Pushpani akshatan samarpayami, which means I'm literally offering such and such. I'm offering this akshata in the place of flowers. If I say mahanavedyam or naivedyam akshatan samarpayami, means I don't have any food to offer you, any real food to offer you. I'm going to meditate on the food, and I'm going to simply offer this akshata to you. These rice grains, right? So whatever, shnanam, even whatever it is, you can offer with akshatan. You can also offer with toyam. Toyam, we're going to get to that later on, so I'll read it. Toyam means water. So water can also be used as a substitute. So there are many things that can be used as substitutes for different services. So amukha akshatan samarpayami, replace amukha, literally such and such, with any non-liquid. So when we're offering something solid and we don't have that solid thing, right, like the food, instead of naivedyam, we can say naivedyam akshatan samarpayami, right? That can be substituted by offering rice grains. I offer rice grains as a substitute for such and such. Now, if it's a liquid thing that we're offering, right? So we're offering a liquid thing like a bath or like achamana to drink or a drink like madhuparka, right? So we can say we can use the word toyam, right? So amukha pushpam, right? Pushpe for 2 flowers, pushpani for many flowers, right? Samarpayami, replace amukha with literally such and such with any non-liquid service. This is an example of the previous point that I made above. that can be substituted by offering rice grains. I offer a flower as a substitute for such and such. So we're continuing on. If we're doing that for a liquid thing, amukha toyam samarpayami, right? So we replace amukha with such and such, with any liquid service, liquid item which is offered by offering water. I offer rice grains as a substitute for, no, it should be not rice grains. I offer water as a substitute for such and such. Yeah, okay. All right, so, right. So for instance, if we have, if I say, padyam toyam samarpa, it might be toyam or might be toyan. Buy water, I offer you achimana. Buy water, I offer you madhuparka. Madhuparka toyan samarpayami, like that. Okay, so anyway, continuing on. After invoking and knowing that we can offer substitutions, again, going on step by step in the puja, the first thing that will be offered after invoking the deity is a seat. So, avahiyami, dhyayami, avahiyami, stapayami, and then asanam samarpayami, right? So this could be even made more fancy. You could say mahasimhasanam samarpayami, right? A great lion throne. I offer you a great lion throne. But people, so if you want to be fancy, there are all sorts of fancy ways that you can say this. But the very simplest way is asanam samarpayami. I offer you a seat, without describing the seat whatsoever. But if we can also describe the seat if we want to be more fancy and say, simhasanam samarpayami, simhasanam, or mahasimhasanam samarpayami. I offer you a great throne, lion throne. Then swagatam, we offer greetings. We greet the Lord. Swagatam samarpayami, right? Sometimes there are also specific slokas and verses that would go along with each of these items. So we could swagatam devadevesha. There might be a verse that goes along with this swagatam, with this offering of greeting. Right? Padyam, water for washing the feet. Padyam samarpayami. Argyam samarpayami, water for washing the hands. Alternatively, it can be used also for sprinkling over the head of the deity. It's really just water that we offer to a guest when the guest comes to the house. He can do whatever he likes with it. But normally it is for washing the hands. If, however, we want to be more fancy, sometimes we'll say that this argya, the padya and the argya and the achmaniya, right, which are usually come together, the water for washing the feet, the water for washing the hands, and the water for washing the mouth, sometimes we'll actually mention the place that it's offered to, the feet, the hands, or the mouth. So in that case, when we say padyam samarpayami, we'll say padayoho padyam samarpayami. When we say argyam samarpayami, we'll say hastayoho argyam samarpayami. And when we say achamaniyam, we'll say muke achamaniyam samarpayami. I haven't written those in there, but I can write those in there. So padayoho means unto your 2 feet. Unto your 2 feet, I offer water for washing your feet. Padayoho padyam samarpayami. Hastayoho argyam samarpayami means unto your 2 hands, I offer water for washing your hands. Right? And achmana, for the mouth, we say muke, unto your mouth, I offer achmaniya water for sipping, right? And purifying the mouth. So it's very, very common that you'll hear padayo padyam samarpayami, hastayo argyam samarpayami, muke achmaniyam samarpayami. Very, very, very common. But we don't, when we first learn these upachara mantras again, we first of all have to know the specific services only, and just the word for offering, the simple word for offering, like that. So padyam samarpayami, argyam samarpayami, achmaniyam samarpayami is a simple way. Padiyo padyam, hastayo padyam samarpayami, hastayo argyam samarpayami, muke achmaniyam samarpayami. These are more complicated ways. Okay, so madhuparkam samarpayami. We can say muke madhuparkam samarpayami because the madhuparkam is a honey drink, a special drink that we offer to a guest, right? In the beginning of a wedding, when we do the Vara Puja, when the bridegroom comes, right, the father of the bride is going to greet him. He's going to wash his feet. He's going to offer him different things. One of the things he offers to him is the madhuparka, is a special drink, a special sweet drink, usually flavored with honey. So it is called madhu. Madhu means honey. Madhuparkam is a honey drink. So I offer a honey welcome drink. Madhuparkam samapyami. We can say mukhe madhuparkam samapyami. It's not a problem. So then, if after we drink that honey drink, we want to rinse our mouth again, we're going to say achamaniyam, or we're going to rinse the deity's mouth again. We say achamaniyam after he takes the honey drink. He wants to have a palate cleanser. He wants to just clean his mouth again. So then we can also say achamaniyam again. Achamaniyam samarpayami. But notice here, I wrote the word punar. Punar or punaha, right? Punaha, it becomes punar when it comes before a vowel, right? That's the way of combining the two words together. So punar archamaniyam samapayami. Punar archamaniyam samapayami means I offer again water for washing the mouth, like that. So again, we could say punar mukhe archamaniyam samapayami if you want to be fancy. So puna means again. Puna. So there's sometimes we see these actually as listed as two different services. The first achman is called achmaniya. The second one is called puna achmaniya. Okay. But anyway, it's simply offering the same thing again, the water for washing the mouth. After that, offering a bath, right? So again, we could have shnanam. Snanam means a bath. So shnanam samarpayami, I offer a bath. That can also be more fancy. You can say shnapayami, right? So we might say padyopadyam samapayami, hastiragam samapayami, mukhyachamaniyam samapayami, shnapayami. Or we might say padyopadyam samapayami, hastiragam samapayami, mukhyachamaniyam samapayami, shnanam samapayami. That's up to you. And you'll see different people using these. This is all about one particular method of offering worship. There are also those other mantras. There's the other mantras for offering worship. Etat padyam, idam argyam, idam achamaniyam. We can go through those in an alternative way, right? What every person should do when he's learning puja is he should decide, am I going to use this system or am I going to use that system? Am I going to say etat padyam, idam argyam, idam achamaniyam? Or am I going to say argyam samapayami, padyam samapayami, achamaniyam samapayami? Am I going to use one of these two systems? Very, very rarely do we see people who mix the systems within a puja. It's usually they choose one system or they choose another system and they do their puja accordingly like that. I personally prefer, and there are many good reasons why to use this particular system that I'm suggesting here, which is mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Again, it comes in Hari Bhakti Vilasa 8410. So, but we also see that in some of the other Goswami's books, like Krishna Jnanabhishek by Rupa Goswami, we have this other system being mentioned also, Etat Padyam, Idam Argyam, Idam Achamaniyam. In some of the later Archana Padadis by, like the Sankshept Archana Padadi by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the simplified Archana Padadi, simplified procedure for doing worship. He has Idam Sachanda Pushpam, instead of Ganda Pushpam, he says Sachandana Pushpam, with sandalwood paste, flowers with sandalwood paste, I'm offering, like that. So there are different procedures and different padatis written by different acharyas, and you can follow them, or you can follow what Hari Bhakti Vilasa says and construct your own system. Hari Bhakti Vilasa, again, doesn't do things. It doesn't go through each of these steps one by one and give the mantras. It lists the mantras here and there throughout the book, and you can compile those from Hari Bhakti Vilasa, or you can just simply know what they are and put them down in a very systematic and logical way, which is what I've done here. So after the bath, then we talk about vastram, right? And we will talk about alankara asana. In that after the bath, we offer the clothes to the deity. So that is called vastram. If we offer two clothes, because sometimes if the deity will wear Krishna will wear a dhoti and he'll wear a chadar, he'll wear a top piece or a shirt like that. So there may be two pieces of clothing. That will be called not vastram, but vastre, right? And if we offer many types of clothes to Krishna, it'll be vastrani, right? So this is also where you have to know a little bit of Sanskrit grammar, right? So vastram samarpayami, vastre samarpayami, vastrani samarpayami. In each case, the samarpayami doesn't change. I offer is the same. Whereas in that other system where we offer etad, idam, imam, right? If we offer singular, it would be idam vastram, then ete vastre, imani vastrani, right? So we have to change that word also. That word idam, ete, etani, right, is going to mean this, these, these dual and these plural. That's how so it makes it a lot more difficult if you do the other system, right, to learn how to actually say it correctly, right? There may be some priests who they just read in the book and they don't know how to change the words in Sanskrit to have the proper endings, and they don't know how to decline or conjugate nouns and verbs in Sanskrit even simply, and so they will just simply read what's in the book and say it. But then when they have some different thing that they have to offer, if they only have one flower instead of two, or if they have three flowers instead of two, they'll be saying something a little bit different, right? So they may just say what they know and not what should actually be there in the proper Sanskrit. It's better if we do it correctly, if we say it correctly, right? Just like if you had a butler and he was saying, ladies and gentlemen, dinner is served. If there's a whole bunch of ladies and gentlemen there and he says, lady and gentleman, if he says it in singular, it sounds silly, right? So we want to do everything correctly for the deity, and that means chant the proper mantras in the proper tenses, in the proper declensions and conjugations. We have to use the Sanskrit. So that it becomes a little bit difficult, but once you get a hang of it, it's not a problem at all. And normally people will have a routine way of offering these different services, and they won't deviate from that way. And if there is a deviation because they have one banana and not two bananas or three bananas, then they have to think about it a little bit, and they have to say it properly. Okay, so anyway, moving on. The vastram, offering after we offer the vastram or the cloth, then we would offer for masculine deities, usually only for masculine deities, although in Shilpa Shastra and in Pancharatra Agamas, there are some forms of female deities. There are some forms of female deities that do also wear a sacred thread. Anupavita, yes, there are. It is described in scriptures, okay? So not getting into that whole controversy, because that may be a controversial point for some people, but there are forms of Durga, there are different forms of feminine deities that do wear a sacred thread or are described as wearing a sacred thread. There's even a form of Devi, there's a form of Durga that carries a danda, like a sannyas danda, like that. We don't want to get into a whole dispute here about whether a female can carry a sannyas danda, but there's a form of Devi that has a danda, has a sannyas danda. Okay, so anyway, here we have Yajñopavitam. Usually for male deities, we're offering the Yajñopavitam or the Upavitam, right, which is the sacred thread. So we say Yajñopavitam samarpayami, I offer a sacred thread. We could say also Upavitam. Instead of saying Yajñopavitam is simply Yajña Upavitam put together with Sandhi. Yajñopavitam samarpayami or Upavitam samarpayami, right? For the ladies, for the female deities, for the feminine deities, for the goddesses, we will offer a Mangala Sutra, because most of the female deities are considered married, right? So Mangala Sutra is a marriage necklace. And the marriage, of course, as we know, is a samskara for the lady, which is equivalent to the upanayanam or the sacred thread ceremony for the male. So the Mangala Sutra can be offered. Mangala Sutra samarpayami, right? And then an upper cloth. We spoke about different cloths, but now we're talking about an upper cloth. Because now, why would you offer an upper cloth now? Because when you're offering a Yajnapavitam to Krishna, you can't put the Yajnapavitam or the Brahman thread over the top of the chadar. You first of all have to offer the Yajnapavitam, and then you have to offer the chadar. So Uttariyam is the upper cloth which you offer. So Uttariyam samarpayami. Okay, so can we say how to make a Mangala Sutra? Yeah, we can probably do that in another class. Right now, a very simple way to make a Mangala Sutra, just to get off that, this is getting away from the topic because we're talking about offering the services. We're not talking exactly about what the services are, okay? So, but a Mangala Sutra is very simply, if you get a piece of cotton thread, cotton cord, and rub turmeric on it, right? Get some turmeric and put some water with the turmeric and make paste and rub it with turmeric till it becomes yellow. Even if you don't want to, if you're worried about the turmeric staining the deity's dress, right? If the deity's wearing some dress that might get stained by the turmeric, then just buy some yellow cord, and then you can also tie to that yellow cord either a golden tali, which is the thing which is the medallion, one or two medallions that go on the sacred thread on the Mangala Sutra of the ladies in South India, or you can buy the black bead like in Western India and some other places. They'll have black beads and gold, right? So you just either buy a golden or one with black beads or whatever Mangala Sutra, or make a thread with turmeric, or just have a yellow thread. And if you really can't have a pendant that goes on the bottom there, you tie a dried turmeric root to that, and that's how you make a Mangala Sutra. Now, exactly the knots to tie and exactly how many threads, that's a completely different discussion. And exactly what the pendants look like for the wife of Vishnu and the wife of Shiva, right? Or the wife of some other deity, right? That's a whole other discussion. So let's not go into that. But there are different forms in different parts of India that the culture uses for different Mangala Sutras. And in some places, like even in Bengal for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Mangala Sutra is not usually a sign of a married woman. There are different signs for a married woman in Bengal. Conch and lac bangles. They have the conch bangles and the coral bangles, and normally that coral nowadays you can't get that coral, so they get what we call lac, which is red, almost like red plastic, and the sindu or the kumkum in the part of the hair in the simanta, like that, as well as the tilak bindi, the dot of kumkum on the forehead. Okay, so that's just a little bit about female deities. Yeah, okay. So continuing on, after we offer the clothes and we offer the sacred thread and the Mangala Sutras to the male or female deities, we're now going to offer alankaram. Alankaram means all sorts of different ornaments, all sorts of necklaces, all sorts of bangles, all sorts of bracelets, all sorts of earrings, all sorts of nose studs, different types of ornaments. So these are all called alankaram. They can also be called abharanam. They can also be called bhushanam. These are all synonymous words in Sanskrit. So you'll see here, I put here, alankaram, alankare, alankarani, for one, two, or more ornaments. Samarpayami, right? I offer you, right? So abharanam, abharani, abharanani, right? Samarpayami, right? In case you want to use that word abharanam. And there may be slight differences in the word alankaram and abharanam and bhushanam. If we look them up in the Sanskrit dictionary, they may have slightly different meanings, but they're pretty much synonymous. They're pretty much equal to each other. So you can choose whichever ones you want. People usually use the word alankaram, but I've heard people do puja and say abharanam samarpayami, bhushanam samarpayami. It's possible. So bhushanam, again, Bhushanam, Bhushane, Bhushanani for the singular, dual, in case of 2 ornaments, in case of more than 2 ornaments, Bhushanani, plural. Now we have, after offering those ornaments, right? With Lord Krishna and with other deities, there also might be some other things which are offered to the Lord. Like, for instance, we're going to offer Krishna a flute. We're going to offer Krishna a stick for leaning on. We're going to offer, we might offer Krishna to put in his hand a whip or a stick to drive the cows with. We might offer, if we have a deity of Saraswati, we might offer her a veena to play. We might offer a book in the hand of Lord Hayagriva. We might offer, there's so many things. There's so many things that are kept in the hands. And in Hinduism and Vaishnavism in general, and we have deities with many, many hands, and they may have many, many things in their hands, according to Vaishnava iconography or Hindu iconography. So we have to know the names of all these things, all of these weapons and ornaments and things that people would, different deities would hold in their hands. Okay, so we'd know that. Like, for instance, for Vishnu, he's going to hold the Shankha chakra. He's going to hold the chakra disc and the Shankha conch. He may call the Mada, the Gada, the mace. He may call the Kamala or the lotus. It may be called a Pushpa or a Kamala in one hand. So whatever it is, if we have to offer that to that deity, we have to know the name of that in Sanskrit to be able to offer it to him. Or we offer a generic name. A generic name for a lotus is Pushpa. It's a flower, right? But specifically, it's Kamala. It's called. There are many other abja. There are many other specific names in Sanskrit for a lotus, right? So there may be specific names for other things as well. So Lord Ramachandra has to be offered a bow. So what is a bow? A bow is a chapa. So chapam samarpayami, right? So like that. So we have to tailor make these offering mantras. We have to tailor make them for the specific situation, the specific deity, and the specific item that they hold in their hands or they use. And we have to do that. Even if we're offering to the guru, we might be offering upavitam to the guru because he wears an upavitam. Maybe the guru is not a Brahmin or is not a Trivarnika. Then, for instance, if we have a guru, if we have a deity of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, we would not offer upavitam to that deity because he doesn't wear one. In his life, he didn't wear one, so we wouldn't offer one like that to him. So, but for instance, he wears kantamala, which means neck beads. So we should say idam kantimalam, right? Idam kantamalam or kantimalam, right? Or we could say kantimalam samarpayami in this case, in this situation. So there may be different things that we have to offer to different deities, and we have to see what the situation is. So normally, after we offer the ornaments, we're going to offer flowers. And it may be in the form of a garland, or it may be just in the form of loose flowers. And we also sometimes we get even offering of leaves as well, like that, especially the Tulsi leaf, of course, in Vishnu Puja and Krishna Puja. So now we're going to have Pushpamalam Samarpayami. I offer a flower garland, or Pushpamalyam Samarpayami. So it can either be a malam or a malyam. This mala and malyam mean the same thing. Right, and again, if because it's a neuter word in Sanskrit, a-ending neuter word, so it would be malam, malay, malani, right? So it would be singular, dual, and plural. So one mala, 2 malas, 3 malas. More than one mala is going to be malani. So malyam, malye, malyam, like that. Right. Then after we offer these pushpa malas or just malas, garlands, flower garlands or garlands, right? It could also be. We could also do it in a very, very fancy way. We could say, Sri Krishnaya Namaha, Vaijanti Malyam Samarpayami. Vaijanti Mala. There's a certain type of mala called a Vaijanti Mala, a certain garland, which is called a Vaijanti Mala, right? So that particular mala is made of 5 different colored flowers. So it's a rainbow garland. It's not just a rose garland or a ganda, what is it called, a marigold garland, right? It's not just completely one flower, but it's different flowers. It's 5 different colors, and therefore it's called Vaijanti Malya. So we may want to offer Krishna different types of malas. We may have a Tulsi mala for him. We may have a Tulsi Patra mala, a garland of Tulsi leaves, or Tulsi Manjari mala, which we offer to him. We may have a flower garland with different colors. We may have a specific. We may have a gulab pushpa. We have the made of roses. We may have a red rose. We may want to say a garland of red roses. So in each case, if we know how to say it in Sanskrit, it'd be better than just simply saying pushpa mala or mala, right? If we want to be more descriptive about the thing that we're offering, right? That is better. The more descriptive we can be, the better. The more fancy the puja is going to be, if you like that, right? So first of all, though, learn the simple Sanskrit names of each step of each service, and then if you want to make it more elaborate, you can. So now after the offering of flower garland, we have gandam. Now gandam simply means smell. Ganda means a smell, and in Hindi the word ganda means a marigold. If you ever see a marigold, it's a type of flower. If you get it, when you use it, you should squeeze the stem a little bit. If you squeeze the stem a little bit, then the fragrance of the flower comes out more with marigolds. Okay, so here we have this gandam samarpayami. So gandam doesn't mean, in this case, offering marigolds. It doesn't mean offering scents. It means offering specifically sandalwood paste. Now, we're going to learn more about, as we go through Hari Bhakti Vilas, between the 5th Vilas and the 8th Vilas, we're going to learn more about each one of these things in more detail, right? So when we come to ganda, it's going to explain that ganda can be made with grinding sandalwood and water, right? Some people grind sandalwood with a little rose water and they make a paste, but also combining with that the scent of aguru and camphor, sometimes with camphor, or sometimes with saffron. If we add saffron to the sandalwood paste, then it'll give a slightly heating effect when we put it on the deity's skin. If we add camphor, it'll give a slightly cooling effect. So what people do is that in summer they add camphor, and in winter they add saffron, 2 different things. Or they use also, this can be done with different fragrances also. For instance, there's kush, and there's aguru, or there's hina. These are different smells. Okay, so kush is made from kusha grass, right? It's a cooling smell. It's a cooling perfume. If you're going to offer it as an incense, it's a cooling incense. Hina is a different smell, or aguru is a different smell, which is heating. So if you offer that incense, or if you offer that perfume, or if you offer ganda with that fragrance in it, that's for heating, for in winter. Okay, so there are all these different subtle things that you can do, and the point here is not to explain all of the different subtle things that you can make the services up with, right? But to just explain the mantras that you're using with them, right? So here we have gandam, very simple. Gandam, I offer you sandal paste, right? We can also substitute here chandanam. So we can say chandanam samarpayami, or we can say gandam samarpayami. Normally people say gandam samarpayami, but chandanam is fine. You can say this. You can say chandanam samarpayami. Or we could say, in the other system of worship, idam chandanam. This is chandam. This is chandam. This is sandalwood paste. Okay. So now,
Swami, namaskaram. I have a question.
Sure.
Generally in Trinidad, where I live, most priests, I would hear that they are chanting Ganda Chandanam Samarpayami. Is that incorrect?
Okay. Ganda Chandanam simply means, the word Ganda means fragrant. Chandanam means sandalwood paste. Chandanam means sandalwood. Okay. So fragrant sandal paste. Fragrant sandal paste. Ganda Chandanam. Very nice. Okay. That's a very nice way of saying it. So what kind of chandanam is it? What kind of sandalwood is it? It's fragrant sandalwood that I'm offering you. I'm only offering you the best sandalwood, right? For instance, if you go to South India today, I've taken many people on trips in South India, and I take them to a place called Mysore, which is a famous place for sandalwood oil and sandalwood carvings and sandalwood. But nowadays, sandalwood is very expensive. So a lot of times you get these people, what they do is they buy a little sandalwood oil, and then they have blocks of ordinary wood. And what the people do is they take a little sandalwood oil and they rub it on the plain wood, and then they sell it to the tourists as real sandalwood. And they say, no, smell it. It smells of sandalwood. And the tourists smell it and they smell the sandalwood, and then they buy a big chunk of wood thinking that it's pure sandalwood, but it's not. If you cut it in half inside, it's not. It's just been coated with a little bit of sandalwood oil. It's cheating. So what the point is here is that I have this chandanam, I have this sandalwood, and it's not only just sandalwood, but it's fragrant sandalwood. It's very fragrant. So that's a very nice way of offering it like that. Now, there are other pastes that you can use too. In fact, you can even take Tulsi and you can grind Tulsi into a paste and offer that. Tulsi leaves, Tulsi manjaris, Tulsi sticks, Tulsi paste can be offered. Tulsi can be offered in any form like that. So it can, you also, if you don't have any sandalwood paste, my suggestion would be, if there might be some other fragrant tree, right, like a camphor tree or something like that, if you get wood from that and make it into paste, that would also be a useful type of paste to offer. So these are all substitute items. The normal system is to offer sandalwood paste, and we can say Gandham Samarpayami, Chandanam Samarpayami, or we can even say Ganda Chandanam Samarpayami, as you say. No problem. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about different things that normally go together. We see many times, especially in South Indian pujas like that, people will give sandalwood paste, and the sandalwood paste will be a little wet in order to stick to the body of the deity or to a pot or to something or on some item, right? To a bell, for worshipping a bell or a conch. If we want, for instance, if we want a flower petal or if we want a Tulsi leaf to stick to something, like the Radharani's hand or the Guru's hand or Krishna's feet. Let's say we have a Tulsi leaf and we want it to stick to Krishna's feet. We want that to stick to Radharani's hand. Right? What we do is we take that and we take some of this wet sandalwood paste and we dip it in that and then we stick it like that. So in this case, we would say ete ganda pushpe, ete ganda tulsi pushpe, or ete ganda tulsi patram. Ete ganda tulsi patram means that chandan with tulsi is being offered. Ete ganda pushpe means a flower or a flower petal with sandalwood paste is being offered. So now it doesn't have to be stuck. It can also be offered. You can just offer arti fashion to a deity, a tulsi leaf with sandalwood paste or a flower petal or a flower with sandalwood paste, and then discard it in the throw-out pot. Right? We haven't talked about the actual method of offering, how you offer it. You know, do you offer it to the feet? Do you offer it to the mouth? Do you offer it to the hand? After you offer it, do you put it aside, or do you put it at the feet of the deity? Do you put it in his hands? Whatever you do. We haven't talked about that yet. We're just talking about the mantras that we use in the offerings. So, okay. So here we're going to discuss that we have ganda, and then we have some other powders, which are called haridra and kumkumam. Now, haridra is turmeric. Or in Hindi it's called haldi. So in Tamil it's called manjal. Okay, manjal podi. Manjal podi means turmeric powder. Podi means powder in Tamil. So we have manjal podi, or what's called haldi, or turmeric, right, powder, which is very auspicious. Turmeric is auspicious. Is supposed to be representative of Lakshmi. That's why I told you about the turmeric root, which is tied on the Mangala Sutra. Yeah, turmeric is considered pure, also very purifying, very good for health in diet. Also turmeric and in medicine. Okay, so turmeric is like a Lakshmi thing, right? Prasad. Okay, so turmeric is very good for puja, and turmeric, when we add a little bit of lemon juice or lime, not the other type of lime, the calcium hydroxide type of lime, which they put in pan sometimes, right? If you add that to turmeric, it changes the color of turmeric to red. Usually turmeric is yellow color, but it can be changed to a red color if we add lemon juice or if we add calcium hydroxide lime, like that. It changes to become red color. That red color turmeric is kumkum. It's called kumkum. Nowadays we have many other different colors, artificial colors, and you have artificial red color kumkum that some people use also. But the original, if you want to get pure kumkum, there's a brand in South India called Gopuram kumkum, which is made from only turmeric, right? So it's pure. Okay, so we recommend that brand of kumkum for use in puja. Is the pure type of kumkum. But in any case, if you have some other type of kumkum that you're using, that's fine. It's a red powder. So you have a red powder, you have a yellow powder, and you have the sandalwood paste. So now when you do a puja, a lot of times you will put sandalwood, some slightly wet sandalwood paste on an item like a bell or a conch or a pot or a deity. And then on top of that, because it's wet, you can then, because your finger is still wet when you put the sandalwood paste on, the wet sandalwood paste on, you can then touch the yellow powder turmeric or the red powder kumkum, and you will get a little bit of that on your finger, and then you can touch that and place that on top of it. So normally what people do is, if they're going to use all three, if they're going to use two, they put the sandalwood paste and then they put either kumkum or turmeric on top. If they're going to use all three, they'll put sandalwood paste on top of turmeric and then kumkum last, like that, normally, right? Like that. So when you do that, that's a very common thing. So that's why I'm explaining it. It may sound a little detailed. It's a very common thing. And the way to offer that is Gandasyo pari haridra kumkumam samarpayami. I offer to you Gandasya pari means Gandasya upari. It means on top of the sandalwood paste. Upari means on top. So Gandasya pari haridra kumkumam samarpayami. I'm putting the turmeric and the kumkum on top of the sandal paste. Right? So this is a little complicated and a little fancy, right? A little complicated, but it will come up. So what I'm trying to do here is give a list of all the different ways to offer different items. And so I gave this way because it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more fancy. Okay. But normally just offering Gandham Samarpayami is enough, right? If you want to do this separately, now let's say you want to do it separately. You don't know how to do it in a fancy way. You don't know how to say Gandasyo pari haridra kumkumam samarpayami, because this one statement you'll be able to offer sandalwood paste, kumkum, turmeric, and then kumkum. Three actions. You're offering sandalwood paste, turmeric, powder, and kumkum powder in three actions or three offerings with one mantra, right? So that's a little fancy. If you wanted to do that separately, you simply say Gandham Samarpayami, Haridra Samarpayami, Kumkumum Samarpayami. So instead of saying Gandham Samarpayami, Haridra Samarpayami, Kumkumum Samarpayami, you just say Gandhasya pari Haridra Kumkumum Samarpayami. Okay? So there's ways of also combining services. Right? So you might say Shnanam Punrachamaniyam Samarpayami. I'm going to offer you a bath, and then I'm going to offer you water for washing your mouth, and just say it in one go. You could string all of the different services together in one big compound in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, you can make compounds. So you just add you could say Shnanasana, see the Asanam, Swagatam, Snanam, Vastram, Alankaram, like this, and put it all together and say Samarpayami at the end. But instead of doing that, what I said was in the beginning, sometimes people do, because they're worshiping some deity and they're not offering all of the different things to that deity. They're offering substitutes. So they're just going to substitute akshitan, right? Either water or toyam water, or akshitan, the rice grains, for that puja. So for instance, we're going to worship Jai and Vijay. the Dwarpalakas, the two security guards at the door of Lord Krishna's temple. Yeah. So what we might say Dwara Devatabhyo Namaha, right? Instead of Dwara Devatabhyo Namaha means I offer my obeisances to the two doorkeepers. Devatabhyo means two doorkeepers, right? Dwara Devatabhyo Namaha. Otherwise, I say Jayaya Namaha, Vijayaya Namaha. I have to say it separately. So if I want to worship them both, I'm just going to say Om Dwara Devatabhyo Namaha, and I might say Dhyayami, Dhyanam Samarpayami, Vahyami, Stapayami, Pujayami. Finished, and I've worshipped them. That's the whole puja finished, because I don't want to spend 2 hours worshiping Jai and Vijay. I want to get inside the temple and worship Krishna. I want to go into the deity room and worship Krishna. So because these are parivara, these are attendant deities, then my focus will be on worshiping them only for a smaller period of time. And so I have to get the puja to them done completely, but in a quicker form. So I will say, Avahayami, Stapayami, Pujayami. I invoke you, I establish you, and I worship you. And now I'm moving on to inside the deity room to worship Lord Krishna. Okay, so there's different ways of combining these things, and it all depends upon the situation, like that. Okay, so continuing on, we're going to again offer pushpam, but this time the flowers that we offer at this time are going to be loose flowers. So again, we have pushpam, pushpe, pushpani, one flower, two flowers, many flowers, samarpayami. Then Tulsi leaves. Now, as I was saying before, Tulsi leaves, and there are other types of leaves. In the worship of Lord Shiva, we have the bilva leaf. Just like if you have a salagrama, you worship with Tulsi leaves. If you have a banalingam from the Narmada River, there are these different stones. We're going to read a little bit, and we're coming to this point of learning about different forms of the Lord, different external forms of the Lord, different deities, and different shalagrams that we can worship, right? And even Dwarka Shilas, Govardhan Shilas are not mentioned, but they're also to be understood. There might be some other type of Shilas also. There are self-manifest deities of Vishnu, the Dwarka Shila, the Govardhan Shila, the Shalagram Shila, specifically the Shalagram Shila. And those are going to be worshipped, of course, because Vishnu is worshipped with Tulsi leaves. Then we have this. If we're worshiping Shiva, and you might know if you know anything about Smarta Puja, there's what we call Panchayata Puja or Panchayata or Panchopasana. Panchayata or Panchopasana Puja, where you worship 5 forms of Brahman. Means Vishnu, Surya Narayana, Shiva, Ganesh, Devi. Right? These 5. And in South India, sometimes in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, they add a 6th one. They add Murugan. They add Subramanyam or Kartikeya. Okay? This is normally what Smartas do. This is the system introduced by Shankaracharya. Okay? It's not the system of Vaishnava worship. It's a different system. It's a Smarta Puja, but there are many, many people who follow Smarta Marg, and that's the type of puja that they normally do. In that system, there are actually 5 or 6 different things that they worship, which are considered to be self-manifest forms of those different deities. So there's a stone that represents the sun, one that represents Ganesh, one that represents Devi, one that represents Vishnu, which is a shalagram, one that represents Shiva, which is a Banalinga. So when you have a Banalingam, and there are different things which are favorite offerings, and the favorite offering to Vishnu is the Tulsi leaf. The favorite offering to Shiva is the Bilva Patra, the Bilva leaf. The favorite offering to Ganesh is the Durva grass, right? Its favorite offering to Shiva and to Surya are other things. Okay, so whatever it is, but specifically because we're mostly interested in Vishnu Puja here, we're going to talk about, even in Hari Bhakti Vilas later on, if we look in the 19th Vilas, this is a very interesting thing. In the 19th Vilas, it'll talk about the installation of the deity, and they'll talk about the worship. Incidentally, we have to worship many, many other little other devatas, other attendant deities, along with worshiping Vishnu when we install the deity of Vishnu. So we may have to worship different directional deities or different demigods and devatas in that system. So some of those devatas, some of those devatas are normally offered even non-vegetarian food. They're even offered meat. But the system in Vaishnava worship is that even if we have to offer some worship to those devatas, we make a substitute and we offer them sweet rice. We offer them payasam, rice mixed cooked with milk and sugar. We offer that to them with a little ghee. We offer that to them instead of the normal thing. But if somebody was a smarta, they would look in the padati for this particular form of Durga or this particular Gana of Shiva or whatever like that, or demon or whatever it is, and that thing has to be offered meat. So that is mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilas, but it's also mentioned that we don't do that. We are going to offer sweet rice instead. We have also students and friends of mine in other countries, like in Spain. We have Lakshmana Munipungava, Lakshmi Narasimha Ramanuja Dasa, and some other Yovanachari. They've also been to Spain and they've performed Durga Pujas for the Indian community there, like that. And in the Durga Puja, at a certain point, there is time when they cut a fruit or they cut a banana, right? And it symbolizes the cutting of a goat, the killing of a goat, like that. If you go to Calcutta today and you go to the main deity of Calcutta, which is Kali Ghat, there's a place called Kali Ghat where they have a Kali Mandir, and Kali is the main deity, is the form of Durga, which is the main deity of Kolkata, right? Kalikata, right? And if you go to that temple, normally outside the temple, they sell baskets of fruit and flowers and Tulsi Leaves and different things that you can take in and offer to the Lord Vishnu. In this case, in Kali, they sell goats. They sell little goats and they sell animals and things that you can take in and have them killed in front of the deity. So, and especially in Nepal, they still do a lot of animal sacrifice in Hindu temples. So, okay, we're not talking about that here, but what we're talking about, of course, there are substitutes that Vaishnavas do. And in fact, there are even smartas from South India who will go to that Kali temple. They will not buy a goat, but instead they'll buy ghee, and they will go inside, and the ghee will be used in a fire sacrifice, in a fire kunda. In the back of the temple, there's a yoni shaped, heart shaped fire kunda, where the Brahmin priest is sitting there offering oblations to Kali, to goddess Kali, and they will give the ghee there, and the ghee will be offered to Kali as oblations into the fire, rather than buying an animal and sacrificing it. So there are different procedures that people can do. In the Madhva Sampradaya, what they do is they do these Vedic sacrifices, like horse sacrifice and the horse sacrifice and different other sacrifices where animals have to be killed. And they make an animal out of grain. They cook an animal, they make some cooked grain, and they make a substitute animal. It looks like an animal, but it's actually made of something else, right? Some vegetarian thing, and that gets thrown into the fire. Or that gets offered into the fire. So there are ways of doing these things which do not involve himsa, or the killing of animals, because normally in these day and age we don't do those sort of things. But maybe in previous ages they did those things. Okay, that's there in the Vedas. But we're not normally performing Vedic sacrifices, so let's not. Hari Bhakti Vilasa is not about discussing about Vedic sacrifices. So let's get back to the topic. So the topic is there are different ways to offer things to the deity. So we have this Tulsi Patram. So for Banalingam, it could be a leva. For a lingam, a Shiva lingam, it could be a bilva leaf, or it could be a different type of leaf. So specifically for the Guru and for Radha or for other personalities who are not Vishnu Tattva, then we would offer the Tulsi in their hand to offer to the Lord. And for those that are Vishnu Tattva, we would place them on the feet of those deities. Okay, that's normally what would be done in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Okay, so then continuing on, after we've done this Alankarasana, we're offered all the ornaments and the clothes and different things to the deity. Then we would offer a mirror to the deity for the deity to see themselves. Now that mirror can be made of glass. It can be made of, there is a certain place there's a certain village in Kerala where they make these wonderful mirrors out of bronze, and they're so shiny that you can actually see very well, in your hand. And so there are even arti implements that you can get where you have a mirror which you offer, a metal mirror like that I have in my puja room. So this is called a darpanam. Darpanam is a mirror. Darpanam samarpayami. I offer mirror. After we offer the mirror and the Lord can see himself and see how we've decorated Lord Krishna, then we'll offer dhupam. Dhupam means type of incense. There are different types of incense, of course. There's the agarbatti, and then there's also the frankincense, or what we call the samrani, where you put either powder or some liquid on a burning coal, which is brought from the temple kitchen, or we can purchase these self-igniting, coals that come in church stores and offer frankincense on, which is a type of gum resin that comes from different trees and makes some beautiful smoke for the deity. This dhupam can also be used to purify things, because dhupam, which is offered to the deity, can also be used to purify things. When we're, for instance, if we after the deity's bath, if we're going to dry the deity, we would take what we call a plota vastra. Plota actually means pure, but or plota actually means a cloth. But when we say plota vastra, it's a type of cloth that we use for drying the deity. So after the deity is bathed and we have to dry the deity, we have to take off his wet cloth and we have to change it for dry cloth, in which case, if it's a public abhishek, normally we put up a screen when we take the Lord's lower cloth off or the goddess's cloths off. And when we put up a screen, and then we change the clothes, right, after drying the Lord. When we dry the Lord, we use what's called a plota vastra, and we heat that. We slightly heat that and purify it over incense smoke. So we might have a frankincense thing smoking, and then we take the cloth and put it over the incense smoke, slightly warm it and purify it, and then press it on the body of the Lord. Right? Just like when you go to the barber and he shaves you, he might put a hot towel on your face afterwards, like that. It's another way of offering a nice service to the Lord, like that, and press it slightly like a massage, like that. So these hot towels are being pressed on the Lord to purify and to dry him before putting the new cloth on, like that. Then with the same cloth, if we're going to now offer it to the different goddesses, right, or to the different attendant deities, right, we also again purify it on the smoke, like that, before we do it, like that. So these are some ways. Now the dhupam also, the smoke from the dhupam is from the incense, right, can also be used to purify when we install pots. If we have a pot or a kumbha, right, which we need to install, sometimes we clean the pot, we wrap threads around the pot, we do different things to the pot. That's a whole other discussion, right? And then we turn the pot upside down over frankincense, get some of that pure frankincense smoke in there, turn it upside down, put a cloth on top, and pour the liquid inside the pot, the water inside the pot, fill it up, put a coconut and leaves on top. And that's how we do a very fancy installation of a pot that we're going to use. A pot is, when we worship a pot, it's a blank deity. We can call any deity to come into to be present in the water of the pot, and we can worship through the pot. And the pot is considered like a body. The pot is the body, the water is the blood, the leaves are the two hands, the two legs, the genitals, and the head, and the coconut is like the head. Okay, so that's a whole other discussion, right? Here we're talking about worshiping the deity or a shalagram, and so we're not going to talk about that particular thing right now. But anyway, we got off the track because we talked about dhupam, which is the incense, the fragrant incense. Okay, so then deepa, there are different types of deepas. Okay, there's an oil lamp, there's a camphor lamp, there's a ghee wick lamp, there's different numbers. There's a single wick lamp, there's a 5-wick lamp, there's a 1,000-wick lamp. There's many different types. There's another one that looks like a pot with a lamp out the top. That's called deepa kumbha. So we can say we say deepam samarpayami off your lamp, deepa kumbham samarpayami off your this lamp on the pot. There's many types of deepams. There's even the standing lamp in the temple or in the deity room. There's a standing lamp next to the altar, right? You might have a standing lamp from which you light the incense, from which you light the lamps. There's we might call it a khanda deep. It might always be on, even it might burn throughout the night. It might be going on like that. In Udupi, the lights inside the deity room of Lord Krishna in Udupi have been going for 700 years since Madhacharya lit them originally. Okay, they never go out. So there's a thing called a Kandadip. It's an eternal flame. So be very careful with that. If you're going to have on your altar, on your deity room in your house or in a temple or something, be very careful if you're going to have an eternal thing that you need to have enough supply of wick and supply of oil or ghee or whatever it is to burn forever, but also make sure that it's not anywhere close to anywhere that it can burn up anything, like the deity's clothes or anything flammable in the deity room. These are different types of lamps. Okay. Then we also have the lamp. So anyway, those are basically, I was just going to think there was some other type of lamp I was thinking of, but there's different types of lamps that can be offered, right? And so normally the lamp is offered, to show the feet and the head of the deity, to show the different form of the deity, because originally in ancient temples, the inside of the temple was quite dark, and so just to show the person's the different parts of the deity's body. Okay, so then we have afterwards, after offering the lamp, we could offer again padyam, achamaniyam, etc. Again, we can use this word puna or punar. If you're offering padyam, because the visarga comes before a p, it would be punaf padyam samarpayami. Right? It would actually be like this: punaf padyam samarpayami. Right? Upabaniya. If we're offering again achamaniyam, we would puna achamaniyam samarpayami. Right? Now, when we offer food, there are a whole lot of mantras for offering food. Right? The first mantra, when a person is a very honorable person or a trivarnika, a person's a high class person, then they do the Brahma Bhojana. So anybody who has taken Upanayana, who is following Brahmana type activities in his life, right? He knows about how to perform the Brahma Bhojana, how to actually eat correctly. And so when we offer food to the Lord, we sometimes do this, and we offer it in the same ritualistic way that Brahmins take their food, or upper class, the three upper varnas take their class, upper classes take their food. So that involves two things: sipping water in the beginning and sipping water at the end of the meal. The first sipping water is called purva aposhanam. Purva aposhanam. Aposhanam means the sipping of the water. So we have purva aposhanam, we have uttara aposhanam, the one that comes later. The sipping first and then sipping afterwards. So we can say purva aposhanam samarpayami. I offer water to sip ritually at the start of your meal. Right? So now we're going to talk about mantras for offering food. We can just say aposhanam jalam or toyam, right? Could also be toyam. These are different words that mean water. Aposhana is the thing that we're offering it for. We're not offering water for you to sip. We're not offering water for you to wash your hands or your feet with. We're offering a specific spoonful of water to you, for you to take right at the beginning of your meal, which is called aposhanam, right? And there's a mantra to say when you offer this. You say Om Amrito Pastaranamasi, right? And when you do it at the end of the meal, they say Om Amrita Pidanamasi. Okay, so there are different mantras that go along with this, but these are the basic mantras, right? So now, if you want to avoid all that, you can simply say Navedyam Samarpayami. I offer you this food offering. But you could make it more complicated than that. You could say Maha Navedyam Samarpayami. So like if you have a small offering of a couple of bananas or some fruit or some dried fruit or whatever it is that you're offering to your home deity or whatever, you might do that. If you have in a temple and you're offering a huge feast or a Rajabhoga, which is the noonday offering, right? You might say Maha. You might say it's a great feast. It's a great Naivedyam. It's a great Bhoga. So you would say Maha Naivedyam Samarpayami. There's also a special word, which I didn't put in here. Instead of Samarpayami, you can say Nivedayami. Nivedayami means I feed you. I feed you this great feast. Instead of just I offer it to you, I feed it to you. It's a more personal service, right? Mahanavedyam Nivediyam, right? So then in that, after you do the Purva Poshanam and offer the food, then you're going to, in the middle of the food, you're going to offer water for the person to drink, for the deity to drink. Normally, when we eat food, we have water during the meal that we take, to help us eat the meal. Right? We're eating the food, but we get parched and we need to get thirsty and we need to sip water every once in a while. Right? So what we say is so we would say, first of all, we would say very simply, Nivedyam samarpayami is very simple, right? Or Mahanavedyam nivedayami, more complex, right? And then in the middle of the meal, we will say Madhye Madhye Paniyam samarpayami. Madhye means in the middle. Madhye means in the middle. So Madhye Madhye Paniyam. Paniyam means water for drinking in the middle of the meal. It's drinking water, right? Drinking, it could be any liquid actually, Paniyam. But anyway, it's liquid for drinking. Normally in India, people drink water with the meals and they drink other liquids like juice and milk and things at other times separately. So, but in any case, if you're offering anything, it can be any liquid to drink with the meal. It's Paniyam Samarpayami. So we might make a meal for Krishna and we might include a lassi drink or a hot milk drink with that. So we can still say Paniyam Samarpayami. Or we can find out the words in Sanskrit for that specific drink. Sometimes when we offer food, we can mention the apupam, supam. There's different names for different things, different items of food that we can offer, right? Also, but that's even more complicated, so we won't get into that. Okay, so Madhya Paniyam Samarpayami, offer water in the middle of the meal. Then after the meal is finished, right? It's finished, it's finished, then Uttara Posanam is offered. Uttara Posanam Samarpayami, the mantra that we chant when we eat for Uttara Posanam, when we sip at the end of a meal, is Amrita Pida Namasi. Yeah. Okay. So then in between these, I didn't mention it, but there are in fact, after the Purva Poshanam, there are the Prana Mantras. There are the offerings of Prana Agnihotra, offerings to the fire of digestion of one small grain of rice with ghee on it, thrown into the back of the mouth and swallowed whole, which is part of Brahmana Bhojanam, which we can also offer to the deity. And that is also mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. All of these things are mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, okay? So we're going to get there. But I'm mentioning them all here now so that when we come to them, we'll know them. And when we see them in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it'll explain more about them in detail. Okay, so when we do the Brahmana Bhojam, we Amritopastamasi, we take water. First of all, we sprinkle water around some water on the food. Satyam Tartena Parisimchami, or in the morning, or at the brunch or lunchtime. And then in the afternoon or in the evening, if we have another meal, we say Vitam Tartena Parisimchami, and then we sip Om Amritopastamasi, and then we take 5 morsels of food. The first thing that goes on the plate is the rice, and we put some ghee on the rice, and just rice and ghee. Flick that back in the back of the throat, and we're not going to chew that with our teeth, because that is the fire. That is the havis or the offering into the Agnihotra, into the Vaishvanara, the Agni, the fire in the belly, the fire of digestion. So that's offered into the fire of digestion, the ghee and grains, which is a sacrifice called. I don't know. It's called Vaishvanara Homa. Anyway, so it's so we offer it back with five oblations. So we go Om Pranaya Swaha, Om Apanaya Swaha, Om Dhyanaya Swaha, Om Udanaya Swaha, Om Samanaya Swaha. When that is offered to the deity, we say those mantras, and along with those mantras, there are mudras to go. There are different mudras for Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, and Samana, the 5 major life airs. There are also 5 minor life airs, but they're not involved in digestion. So therefore, we offer these 5 life airs. These 5 life airs. So Om Pranaya Swaha, Om Apanaya Swaha, Om Dhyanaya Swaha, Om Udanaya Swaha, Om Samanaya Swaha. right? And then at the end of that, we may say Om Brahmane Swaha. Some people say Om Brahmane Swaha, and they say Brahmanima Amitatvaya, right? And some people say Sri Govindaya Namaha, Govindaya and Sri Govindaya Namaha, and that's how they offer the food, like that. And then after that's finished, right? Now there may be some other procedures which are given in the more recent Gaudiya Padadis, like the Sanchitavshana Padadi of Bhakti Vinod or Bhakti Siddhanta Zakshana Padadi, or even the modern ones that go around the different Gaudiya Maths in ISKCON or other parts of the Gaudiya Sampradaya that may involve chanting Mula mantras and different mantras like the Gopal mantra over the food. That's incidental. We'll come across something like that. We'll see what that is, but we won't see it now. But these are the specific mantras which are used for offering the food. Okay, so then after that, the Madhya Panim Samarpayami, we offer the water in the middle of the meal. Then after that, the Purna Aposhanam, the water to be sipped at the end of the meal, which can be said either Uttara Aposhanam Samarpayami, I offer the water to sip to finish a meal, right? Or it can also be called Puna Aposhanam Jalam, Aposhana Jalam Samarpayami, right? I offer again Aposhanam water for at the end of the meal, right? But this is better because it specifies that it's the finishing water. This one does not specify it's the finishing water, but just says it's another Aposhanam type of water. Okay. So then after that's finished, after the meal is finished, then we have to offer different things to the Lord, right? He's finished his meal. Now, when we eat in India, different things, like in some people in this world, they eat with knives and forks. Some other people eat with chopsticks, and other people eat with their hands. So it's normally pretty much understood that about twice as many people eat with chopsticks as with knives and forks, and in this world, about twice as many people that eat with chopsticks eat with their hands. They just eat with their hands, and normally people are eating with the right hand because that's considered to be the clean hand. And I don't need to go into why that's considered to be the clean hand, but normally people are eating with the right hand. Okay, so here we're going to be talking about washing the hand, and we're also going to be talking about doing different things after the meal. So first thing after the meal is, so now if we're doing a puja, or if we're in a temple or in a house where we actually leave the Garbhagriha, or we go outside the deity room, we may go outside to sing a song about, the Gaudiyas, sometimes they go outside and they sing a song about Lord Krishna eating different types of food and things like that and meditate upon that. They go outside and meditate. Or some people, like in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, talks about going and doing a fire ceremony, the Nitya Homa, during the time when the Lord is eating. But sometimes people just leave the deity room, or they leave the temple, the Garbhagriha in the temple, or the puja room in the house, and leave the Lord to eat the meal for a little while, like that. Sometimes they don't, and sometimes in pujas we simply offer the food and we meditate upon the Lord eating the food, and then we just simply take the food away and start the rest of the puja. So what we do is we offer the first thing that you do after you eat a meal is you get up and you go and you take some water in your mouth and you rinse your mouth, because there may be still some food particles in and around your mouth. So that is called gandusham. Gandusham is to rinse the mouth. Gandusham is actually a handful of water. You're going to take a handful of water and you're going to sip it, and you're going to rinse your mouth a certain number of times. But here because it's a deity, we can just offer it one time. It's enough. If it's a more elaborate puja or something like that, or in Raganuga Bhakti, if we were offering this, we would probably offer the exact number of times that you're supposed to rinse your mouth, right? Which I can't remember right now, but is there in Shmiti Shastra. You have to rinse your mouth so many times, you have to wash your hands so many times, etc. So, okay, so here we just offer a gandusha. So we have gandusham samarpayami, offer water for rinsing your mouth after a meal, and that water is spat out, right? So when we are offering water to the Lord, Padyagachmiya, we'll go through that a little bit when we go on later. We offer it, and we might put the water after we offer it to the Lord, either to his hand or to his mouth, right, or to both. We might put it in a throw-out pot. We might put it in some other container to discard it, so that we can then offer something else. So anyway, the first thing after eating the meal, gandusham samarpayami. Then after gandusham samarpayami, after you rinse your mouth, then you have to wash your hands. So hasta prakshalanam samarpayami. Hasta prakshalanam samarpayami. Now we could also say here, right, after hasta prakshalanam samarpayami, pada prakshalanam samarpayami. Right, after you wash your hands, then wash your feet. Or wash your feet first and then wash your hands. But normally, because you use your hands to eat, you usually wash your hands first and then wash your feet afterwards. Whereas, if you're coming to a person's house, if you're visiting a person's house, and that person requires you to wash your hands, mouth, and feet before you enter the house, which is very common with Orthodox Brahmins in South India, there'll be a bucket of water outside and a small cup, and you take the cup and you have to sip and wash your hands, mouth, and feet before you enter the house. Okay. So the thing that you do is you first of all have to wash your feet, right? And then wash your hands. Because if you wash your hands and then you use your hands to wash your feet, then you have to wash your hands again. So you first wash your feet, then wash your hands. Then after you wash your hands, then you sip some water. But first of all, before sipping the water after washing your hands and feet, you have to pour a little bit of the water out so that you don't directly use the same water that you wash your feet and your hands with to wash your mouth. So there's so many rules about this. But anyway, if we're doing this with a deity, we can be meditating upon this type of thing. But we could offer, first of all, the water for rinsing his mouth, then water for washing his hands, then water for washing his feet after a meal. That's normally that's normally what we do. Now, if we have to use the hands to wash the feet, if we have to wash our feet, if we have to get down there and touch the feet with the hands after a meal. So we're sitting on the floor in India and we're sitting cross-legged, and somehow some of the food or something may have gotten on our feet or on our knees or something like that. So then afterwards we have to go and we have to wash our mouth, then wash our hands, then wash our feet. If we touch our feet, then we have to wash our hands again. So there's no way around it. Okay, so here we have gandusham, hasta prakshalanam, and maybe pada prakshalanam. And then afterwards, we might again offer arghya for washing the hands, padya for washing the feet, right? Purna, or we'll call it purna padya, like that, right? And again, achmaniya, achman. So we would have argyam samarpayami or purna argyam samarpayami, then for washing the hands. Pada prakshalanam samarpayami, water for particularly washing the feet. So this is a little different from padyam. Padyam is water. We just splash some water on the feet and we wash the feet. Here, we're thinking there may be actually some residue of the meal or something maybe there on the feet. So we actually, prakshalanam means to wash, to actually, wash. Pada prakshalanam. And there's also a lot of people, what they do is when they pour water on their own feet and wash their feet, they use the one foot to sort of rub the other foot. But apparently there's a rule against doing that also. So, exactly how to wash the feet is debatable amongst different people. Just like in some communities also, there's a debate about where to put the cup when you're eating, and which hand you have to use for the cup. In fact, in South India, you must use the cup with the left hand, right? Even though the left hand is considered a dirty hand, you have to pick up the cup with the left hand. When you drink the water, you, however, must not touch your lips to the cup. Yeah. So the cup is when you place the leaf on the ground to eat the meal from the banana leaf, right? You have to place the cup on the person's left because he's going to pick it up with his left hand. Whereas some places you'll go. I went one time and I ate at a Gaudiya Math in Calcutta, and they insisted they had clay cups for a start, which are very difficult to pour into your mouth without touching. And they insisted that I should only drink using my right hand. However, the problem is, and they're wrong about this, when you eat, after you do the purva poshanam and after you do the pranahuti, then you can touch your mouth when you eat a meal. Then before that, you're not allowed to touch your mouth. You have to throw the oblations in for the pranahutis, right? So then you can touch your mouth. After the uttara poshanam, after the sipping at the end of the meal, then you can't touch your mouth. So the thing is, when you touch your mouth, as soon as you touch your mouth, your hand becomes contaminated. Your right hand becomes contaminated somewhat. But because you're continually eating and everything like that, it's okay until the end of the meal. So what is done is that you're eating, and then you want to sip something. So if you then grab the cup with your left hand that you just touched your mouth with, you've contaminated the cup and the contents of the cup. So you cannot do that. So, but unfortunately, some people in the Gaudiya Math don't know this, or maybe in Bengal they don't really think about it properly like that, and therefore sometimes they put the cup on the right side. Normally, when I sit down, if somebody puts the cup on the right side, I just pick it up first of all and put it over on the left side, just to make sure that they understand that I know that it has to be on the left side. I have to pick it up with my left hand, and I cannot pick it up with my right hand, because after I eat and touch my mouth with my right hand, it will be contaminating the cup if I pick it up with my right hand. Okay, so this may not factor into deity worship much, but this is how we do Brahmana Bhojanam. But in fact, when we set out the Lord's plate, we should set it out in that way, and we should put the cup in the right side for him, on the left side, which is the correct side. When I say right side, I mean the correct side, right? On the correct side, which is the left side for him, because he's also going to eat like that. Okay, and then that should be our meditation also. Okay, so Pada Prakshalanam, wash the feet. Then we could offer again water for washing the feet. Puna Padya Samarpayami, instead of saying Pada Prakshalanam. And then we could offer Achamaniyam again afterwards, finishing. And we could even make it more fancy and say it's Naivedya Mantaram. It means after food, Achamaniyam, water for washing the mouth. Okay, so now, what's the question? But what if you're eating from a plate? If you're eating from a plate, yes, you're eating from a plate. Okay. When you touch the plate, isn't it contaminated? Yes. Okay. You touch your mouth. When you touch your mouth, right? Okay. So there's two ways of eating. Well, first of all, we have snacks and we have meals, right? A meal is defined as having rice. If there's rice, if you're eating rice, that's a meal. If you're eating grains of rice, separate grains of rice. I'm not talking about idlis or dosas or things made of rice. I'm talking about rice. If you're eating rice, right? This is the main meal in South India. If you're eating rice, then in order to eat the rice, you have to do this Brahmana Bhojana ceremony, and you have to do the Pranahutis. And you have to do it with rice with ghee, only rice with ghee, which is what comes first. Not rice with sambar, not rice with rasam, not rice with dal on it. Just rice, plain rice with ghee. And if you really want to be correct about it, that rice should be cooked without salt. Okay? So you can have salt separately, but don't put the salt on before you do the purva aposana, right? Before you start and do the pranahutis. So you have to take rice, they put a little bit of ghee on it. You take one piece with specific fingers, throw it down the back of the throat, swallow it whole without touching the teeth, and it goes to the fire of digestion with the mantras of pranaya swaha, apanaya swaha, vyahanaya swaha, udanaya swaha, samanaya swaha, brahmani swaha, om govindaya namaha, like that. Then once you've done that, then you may touch your mouth. Any other meal, you're not supposed to touch your mouth. Any other food that you take in is a snack. Snack, you're supposed to break off a piece of the snack, throw it in your mouth without touching your hand to your mouth. That is pure. That is the way they do it. So if somebody gives you a banana, you peel the banana, you break the banana into pieces, and you throw the small pieces into your mouth. If somebody gives you a snack, you break the snack. If you have idlis, if you're eating idlis, the idlis are on the plate, you take the idli, you break the idli, right? You mix it with some chutney like that and throw it into the mouth. If you touch your hand to the mouth, you first of all have to do this ceremony, this parisechanam ceremony and purva poshanam ceremony and pranahutis. If you do that, then you can touch your mouth. Then it's considered okay. If you don't do that, then it's not considered okay. Is that the answer to the question?
Yes, Swami.
That's a system of Brahmana Bhojana. That is taught to
But
everybody at the time of Upanayana.
okay, yeah, I learned that. But what I was asking was like when you said like if you put your hands into your mouth and then you touch the cup and the cup becomes contaminated, then when you touch back the plate, doesn't the plate also become contaminated?
Okay, the thing is, until you get up, until you get it's the cup is separate from the plate. The cup is separate from the plate. The plate you're already eating from, so the plate is in a certain state. Yes, the plate is considered dirty. That's why you pick up the plate at the end and you throw it away, right? Or you wash it, right? Because it's dirty. Okay. Theoretically, if you have a plate and you have a plate, I come. Okay, I'll make it easy for you. Let's say I have a plate. I have a plate of cookies. I have a plate of biscuits, and I come to you and I say, you can have a biscuit. You pick up the biscuit from the plate, right? And you break the biscuit into small pieces and you throw it in your mouth. Can you then take another biscuit from the plate? Yes, because you didn't contaminate your hand, right? If you take that cookie or that biscuit and you munch on it like this, holding it in your hand, and then you go to touch the plate again, will I let you touch my plate again? No. Right. Okay. So that's the point. So the point is, you have a plate, it's your plate, and you're only eating from that plate. So that's fine. But when you go to touch something else, which is a cup, your hand is already dirty from your mouth, and the plate is already dirty from your mouth. But if you then touch the cup with that dirty plate, then you've contaminated not only the cup but what's in the cup.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, okay. It may not make total sense exactly, because obviously you're continually eating from the plate, and the plate, the first time you touch your mouth, the plate is considered, whatever is on the plate is considered uchista. If you touch your mouth and then if you get up from that meal and you walk away and there's still a lot of food on your plate, that's called uchista, that's called shesha, that's called remnants, and nobody's supposed to touch that. It's considered dirty, right? Even if somebody sitting in the same line as you stands up, you can't eat from your plate anymore. It becomes more contaminated because somebody left. Somebody in the line of all the people, all the Brahmins sitting in the line, they're all doing parisecham. One guy stands up, that everybody else has to stop eating. That these are very small rules which are not totally observed these days. Sometimes, especially if you go to a wedding in South India, they want to feed everybody in batches. So the theory is everybody sits down and they feed everybody at once. Everybody in that line gets fed, and then at the end, when everybody is finished, if I finish eating first, I'll wait for everybody else in that line to finish, and then we all stand up at once. Yeah, and then nothing is considered a leftover. But if I stand up, then somehow or other, because I'm in the same line, I'm connected to them, subtly. So they're whatever was on their plate is now considered a leftover, and they can't eat it. So there's these subtle rules. But in fact, what happens is that some people get up and they walk away. And these days, people don't observe all of these rules as strictly as they used to. So I'm telling you what the strict rule is, right? Because we're talking about the deities, and here, it's going to anyway. This is a little bit of a sidetrack because we're talking about the way people eat and not the way deities eat. Here we're trying to talk about services offered to the deity, so we want more to concentrate on the way a deity is going to eat. But it's a meditation. We meditate that the Lord is eating in the same way that we eat, right? So we don't. So we meditate that Krishna is taking the cup with his left hand and he's pouring some water into his mouth. We don't meditate that Krishna's eating with his left hand, for instance, right? So it's important for our meditation to know the way that people eat, the way that cultured people eat, because we're meditating upon Krishna, who is the greatest cultured person, eating. But it's not important because the deity is not going to personally lean over and eat the food, right? It's by meditation, right? So okay, so the only reason I'm explaining how people eat is so that we can meditate on how the deity eats, right? Now, the way people eat, there are people who strictly follow these old cultural rules, and there are other people who do not follow them anymore, like that. Now, I haven't eaten any rice for the last so many months here in where I'm living, right? And in fact, I'm on a diet right now. I would not eat any rice, even if you brought it to me. I wouldn't eat it, right? So I would honor it if it's Krishna's prasadam, but I wouldn't eat it. So okay, so because I'm not eating any rice, there's no reason for me to do this apposhanam. There's no reason for me to do this parisechanam and Brahma bhojanam like that. Still, I'm eating something, right? And sometimes I might use chopsticks. Sometimes I might use the knife and fork. Sometimes I might use my hands, like that. So as far as possible, I'm going to try and do it in a Brahminical way and avoid impurities. But exactly, for instance, here, even though I've got a banana patch outside, I don't use banana leaves for my daily meals. But in India, it's possible to do that. Maybe in some parts of India, they can't use banana leaves. They use leaf plates that are sewn out. This is much better. Sometimes when you go to a Vaishnava's house, or sometimes when you go to Smarta's houses, what they'll do is if they think that you're a low-class person, they'll serve you on a silver plate. Because that's actually an insult. Because some people in India, you'll go, they'll serve you on a silver plate, and they're thinking that's an honor. But some other people are going to have a silver plate for you to eat off, and that's considered an insult, that they want to have a pure thing for you to eat off because they consider you to be contaminated, a contaminated person. So this has there's many, many different things having to do with the caste system and having to do with class rules and having to do with all these social rules like that. The only reason to really know about them more, unless you're going to live in South India or in some strict Orthodox place in India, is to meditate upon the way the deity is going to eat. That's all. So, okay, so let's continue on. So then after the meal, we're going to offer Achamanam. So that can be Achamanam Samarpayami or Naivedya Mantram Samarpayami. Now, after that, we can also offer Durvakshitam Samarpayami. Durvakshitam means a Durvak type of grass and rice mixed together, not cooked rice, but raw rice. And that is used on the hands, sometimes to clean off any grit that's on something that's may have, like we use soap, of course, when we wash our hands after we eat, like that. But it might also be used to clean the hands after a meal. So that's also another. I've seen that somewhere. It's not common, but that's something that some people say. Now after that, people take tambulam or pan, right, like that, which is like an after dinner mint type, or mukhavasa. It's also called mukhavasa. It's for washing it's a palate cleanser, what we call a palate cleanser in the West. It's something to refresh the mouth after the heavy meal that we've taken. We want to refresh the palate and senses in the mouth. Okay, so that is tambulam samarpayami, or it could be mukhavasam samarpayami, or it could be, like that. I offer betel nut and leaves preparation, like that. Then after that, we're going to offer an arati to the Lord. So that could be like I said, it could be a ghee lamp arati, many different wicks or whatever it is. Could be camphor. It could just be the Prajaksha Deepam, the standing lamp. We should say, here, see the Prajaksha Deepam. We don't have a lamp, but we just say Prajaksha Deepam is there, stand lamp. We offer it to you, like that. But normally the arti at the end of food is a camphor arti at the end of puja, or a ghee lamp arti. So aratrikam samarpayami. So this word arti, right, is I think maybe a Hindi word, may not be exactly a Sanskrit word. The Sanskrit word for arti is aratrikam. So ratrika means night, and aratrika means not night, or the opposite of night. The opposite of night is bright light. Okay, so then after that, we might offer gandham. Again, for the hands, after we eat the meal, the hands sometimes retain the scent of the meal. So when the hands retain the scent of the meal, we might wash the hands and then be offered some sandalwood paste, which we rub on the hands to give the hands a nice fragrant smell again, like that. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So I'm going to finish off now. Very, very soon I'm going to finish. So I'm just going to finish this list. So Balim Samarpayami means we take a portion of the prasadam, which is offered to Lord Krishna, and we offer it to other personalities, his consorts, his associates, different demigods or devatas. And we might use that. We might say Balim Samarpayami. If we're going to offer a lamp with camphor, we say Kapurani Rajanam Samarpayami. If we offer then Pushpanjali, handsfuls or single hand or both hands full of flowers at the end, we say Pushpanjalim Samarpayami, and there's some other mantras to be chanted with mantra Pushpam as well. Yopam, Pushpam Veda, Pushpavan, Pajavaan, Pasaman, Bhavati. There are so many Vedic mantras and other mantras for offering Pushpanjali. After that, Chatram Samarpayami, offering an umbrella to the Lord. Chamaram Samarpayami, the whisk or the yak tail whisk, which is used to keep flies off kings. This is called Chamaram. Chamaram Samarpayami. Vyanjanam is a fan, right? Vyanjanam is a fan. Lord Krishna also sometimes uses a peacock feather fan, right? So there are different types of fans also which are offered to cool down the deity. Darpanam, again, the deity wants to see himself. Darpanam, so we show a mirror to the fan, to the deity. So then Padukam, Paduke, Padukani, we're offering shoes for the Lord to move to the next part of the puja. So there, if we had 6 different asanas of puja, every time we finish one section of puja, we would offer shoes to the Lord and we would meditate upon him wearing those shoes to go to the next section, right? So that would be Paduke, usually Paduke, 2 shoes, but we could say Padukam offering 1 shoe or Padukaha offering many shoes, right? So then we have Vandanam offering prayers. If we offer 2 prayers, Vandanani, many prayers. Vandanam Samarpayami. Udvasana means valediction, where we valedict the Lord or we thank him for being present for our worship, and we give him back to the eternal worship of his associates and consorts in Goloka or in Vaikuntha, like that, because they're the eternal ones who are worshiping him all the time, right? And so when we worship the Lord, we are just simply taking permission to worship him for a selected amount of time, and then we give him back to the eternal worship of so we're borrowing him to worship him, like that. So Udvasanam means valediction. Akshatam, when we offer akshata, sometimes we offer akshata. Normally we just offer akshata for a substitute of another item, another physical item. But sometimes we offer akshata, meaning just akshata. It's sometimes in a puja that you just offer the rice grains, and they're auspicious. They're considered auspicious. In some sampradayas, they do what's called mantrakshata. They chant Vedic mantras on turmeric rice or kumkum rice, and after the person is holding the mantrakshata, it is then offered as a blessing onto the crowd, onto the people, or individually into the person's hand, who he then puts it on his head or on the person's head. That is called mantrakshata. So typical, simple 16 upachara puja. Right, I'm going to run through this very quickly. After repeating the dhyana or meditation mantra and the mula mantra, chant dhyanam samarpayami, avahanam samarpayami, stapanam samarpayami, asanam samarpayami, swagatam samarpayami, padyam samarpayami, yagam samarpayami, achamanim samarpayami, madhuparkam samarpayami, punachamaniyam samarpayami, shnanam samarpayami, vastam samarpayami, uphavitam samarpayami, or Mangala Sutra samarpayami if it's a goddess, alankaram samarpayami, gandham samarpayami, Pushpamalam samarpayami, Pushpam samarpayami, Tulsi Patram samarpayami, if it's a Vishnu Tattva deity, right? Obviously, if it's another deity, you can offer the pushi in the hand, Tulsi Patram in the hand for them to offer to Vishnu. Rupam samarpayami, Deepam samarpayami, Naivedyam samarpayami, and Vandanam samarpayami, and Udvasanam samarpayami. So this is a very simple way of offering puja. So we're going to stop here.